Good morning. Whoa. I apologize. Good morning. Welcome to the Unitarian Universalist Fellowship of Wayne County. I'm your worship associate, Rachel Relly. We are a diverse congregation that welcomes you as you are, regardless of your age, ethnicity, race, sexual orientation, gender identity, economic status, physical ability. We come together to seek deeper meaning and understanding from each other and the world around us. Your presence here today is a gift that brings us closer to that understanding. We are an active community that lives its values beyond the hours of Sunday service, and I would like to call your attention to the following. Please join us next Sunday, September 8th, for our annual water communion ritual. We invite you to bring water to service from a place that is special to you. This can be a place you visited over the summer or even your own tap water. The membership committee will be sponsoring monthly potlucks after the service on the second Sunday of every month. Please join us for the first one on September 8th. Bring a dish to share, your own table service, and an open heart for time with others. The Social Action Committee is partnering with the Worcester Interfaith Justice Climate Change Group to determine if there is enough interest to bring a commercial food waste composting service to Worcester. We are asking you to complete a brief survey. Paper copies will be available after the service on September 8th, 15th, and the 22nd. Stop by the table in the lobby to fill out a form. They will also be available on the Google group. Please take a look at the back of your order of service for more information regarding events and activities taking place at the UUFWC. And if you would like to find out more about our activities, feel free to ask Karen Skubik, our membership coordinator. Is Karen here today? Oh, okay.
Good morning, friends. I'm still getting used to this, coming back from vacation and looking at all of these wonderful faces. I missed y'all. Y'all are pretty wonderful people. Just real quick, you talked about the membership committee, and if you're interested in knowing more, and I know Karen's not here today, are people from membership willing to raise their hand? All right, so see these wonderful people with their hands raised? If you have any questions, believe it or not, those folks are experts. They know this stuff. And I also know for a fact each one of them loves to talk to people and would love to engage you with questions and conversations about all of the wonderful programming we have going on at our congregation. Happy Labor Day, friends. How many of you have picnics planned? Or anything planned? All right. I should, but my wife is out of town because she decided Labor Day was best without me. She's having a girls' weekend at the cottage with a bunch of friends. Yeah. And I'm like, you know what? They're the ones who have experienced labor more than I have. You just got it. Very good. But work is something that is a huge part of so many of our lives. And talking with certain people, especially with my wife and other educators, you ever seen a retired teacher scramble for an identity? Never. Because you do something you love for so long and it becomes a part of you. And it's hard to disentangle what you do with who we are. And we're going to talk about that a little bit today, that we are more than just what we do. And so for all of you who are retired, you can all say, well, I already know all of this. We'll see if he shows me anything new. And for everybody else, for everybody, open your hearts, settle your minds, and join us now for a time of worship.
Thank you, Sue. Our chalice lighting for Labor Day is by Paul Dalzell. On this Sunday before Labor Day, we light this flame to honor all work, not only the work we do for pay with our hands, our backs, our minds, that is important, yes, but also the work we do for love. The work we do to help others stay alive and belong instead of being outcasts. The work we do to ensure people are paid fairly, work reasonable hours, and have quality in their lives. The work we do caring for the young, the old, the infirm. The work we do to mentor, to educate, to advocate, and to enrich the community, the country, and the world. We honor all the labors that support our world and all the work we do to make this a better place. Let us now rise in body or spirit as we sing our opening hymn. The music can be found in the gray hymnal, number 146, Soon the Day Will Arrive.
Please join me now in the spirit of prayer and of meditation. Encourage you to put your feet on the floor if it's comfortable for you. Take a deep breath, let it go. Pay attention to the feelings in your body. Where do you find the tightness? Chest, shoulders, your hands. Breathe into that spot, clench, and release as you exhale. Part of why we gather, part of being together, is support, to hold each other in times of sorrow, to find a place to lay down our burdens just for a moment. All of the hecticness and craziness of the week put aside, and just be in the space. Just breathe. We think about all of our friends in this community and all that goes on. We hold Dan O'Rourke in our hearts, a member who has been going through quite a lot of health issues. Recently had a stroke, is recovering, and is now at the Worcester Hospital. Dan would enjoy visitors, and his wife Denise would like to know if you're going to show up. I can't imagine how exhausting it is to be recovering from such an attack, and how wonderful it is to have friends visit, and how exhausting that must be. To show support to Dan, to show him the love, I encourage you to contact Denise and ask, can I come by at this time? And if she says no, say, oh, what time is good? Because Dan would love to have you there. We think of all of our small people who are going back to school, and all of the joy it gives some of us who are parents to have the house quiet, and how much we get to see them grow over the year, how we get to see them establish contacts with friends, how we get to witness them becoming the people they are. That is a joy. And we still are celebrating the joy of our new DRE, Kelly Chandler. I am excited for what she is bringing. I cannot wait to see how her gifts are received and appreciated by this congregation. Each of us comes in here with different burdens and joys, sorrows and concerns. If there is something that weighs on your heart this week, I encourage you to come up while we sing Spirit of Life. Put that worry onto the stone. Let it go. Wash it in the water. And if there is something that lifts your heart, something that makes you sing, do the same. Put it on the stone and let the ripples of joy spread through this community. If you are in need of conversation, a listening ear, a little empathy, Sue Gross, as part of the lay pastoral care team, is here. If you'd like to meet with her, let her know. And if you'd like to meet with me over the next week, let me know, grab my hands, and we'll set up a time after service, because you're not alone in this, friends. Please now join us in singing Spirit of Life as we do our joys and sorrows ritual.
faith is centered on the belief that we can make this world a better place for all who dwell in it. In order to realize that vision, we need both the motivation and the means. Your donation helps the community put its faith into action by supporting our programming and facilities. This morning and throughout the month of September, all donations collected that are not specifically marked otherwise will be split with People to People Ministries. People to People Ministries is a nonprofit ministry that offers food, shelter, and clothing to people in need. We thank you for your donation toward the mission and the vision of this community. The offering will now be collected and gratefully received. Please join me in the unison reading. The words are on the screen. Let us be grateful when we are able to give, for many do not have that privilege. Let us be grateful for those who share their gifts with us, for we are enriched by their giving. Let us be grateful even for our needs, so that we may learn from the generosity of others. Our reading this morning is The Businessman and the Fisherman, as retold by Nelia Tassil. One day, a fisherman was laying on a beautiful beach with his fishing pole propped up in the sand and his solitary line cast out into the sparkling blue surf. He was enjoying the warmth of the afternoon sun and the prospect of catching a fish. About that time, a businessman came walking down the beach, trying to relieve some of the stress of his workday. He noticed the fisherman sitting on the beach and decided to find out why this fisherman was fishing instead of working harder to make a living for himself and his family. "You aren't going to catch many fish that way," said the businessman to the fisherman. "You should be working rather than laying on the beach." The fisherman looked up at the businessman, smiled, and replied, "And what will my reward be?" "Well, you can get bigger nets and catch more fish," was the businessman's answer. "And then what will my reward be?" "You will make money, and you'll be able to buy a boat, which will then result in larger catches of fish." "And then what will my reward be?" asked the fisherman. The businessman was beginning to get a little irritated with the fisherman's questions. "You can buy a bigger boat and hire some people to work for you," he said. "And then what will my reward be?" repeated the fisherman. The businessman was getting angry. "Don't you understand? You can build up a fleet of fishing boats, sail all over the world, and let your employees catch fish for you." And once again, the fisherman asked, "And then what will my reward be?" The businessman was red with rage and shouted at him, "Don't you understand? You can become so rich that you will never have to work for your living again. You can spend all the rest of your days sitting on this beach looking at the sunset, and you won't have a care in the world." The fisherman, still smiling, looked up and said, "And what do you think I'm doing right now?"
How many of you have heard that one before? All right, handful. I love that one. You forget why so often. I'm going to talk about Labor Day today. Those of you who know me know that I have very strong opinions on labor in this world. And I had to really constrain myself because I could go on for an hour on this one. But we're going to start with a history lesson. When did Labor Day begin? What year was it ratified? 1888. Math majors, 136 years ago, my friends. It was to celebrate those workers whose labor was helping to build the rapidly growing United States. Carpenters, masons, and machinists. You have to remember, in 1888, machinists, kind of a new job. It honored those jobs that some people may consider less dignified, which I've always had issues with that perspective. Peter J. McGuire, who was the General Secretary of the Brotherhood of Carpenters and Joiners in 1888, suggested that this day would be for those who from rude nature have delved and carved all the grandeur we behold. I love the idea of all of the grandeur we behold built by those hands. And it took me a minute, because when I heard him say, with rude nature, I was like, is he calling the people who do this work kind of crude and rude? And I realized he may be talking about the raw materials and not the people themselves. But in either case, labor 136 years ago is a lot different then than it was now. What are the most popular jobs 136 years ago? What was that? Farming. Ding, 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 ding. Number one. Most popular job. We also had cooks, waitresses, carpenters, retail. Always retail. Tailors and garment workers. Think of that triangle shirtwaist fire. And general construction. A lot of jobs where you're working and building things, making things. What's the most popular job today? Guesses? I'm sorry? Did someone say influencer? Yeah, we have a lot of people who want to be. Nursing and healthcare. Nursing and healthcare professionals. Retail, number two. Fast food. General operations, not really sure what that means. And cashiers. Notice that all of those jobs are service-based and not goods-based. We don't make things for a living like we used to. Sure, we're working with our hands in these jobs to some extent. We're working on our feet to these jobs. But employment today is rooted in providing services, not goods. Does that make sense? Think about the world in 1888, right? 48 of the contiguous states, only 38 of them were states at the time. 10 of them were still territories. We were still building this country. We needed to build. We needed to expand. And now our needs are to maintain. Our needs are now to provide services. Needs change, labor market changes. So what does that mean? What does that mean for us as we fire up those grills for the last cookout of the summer? How do we honor Labor Day when it was so different from how it was 136 years ago? One of the largest changes I have seen when it comes to labor in this country and how we work is the idea of loyalty. As the Industrial Revolution was happening at the turn of the 20th century, manufacturers had a hard time retaining workers. People would job hop from place to place, much like now, and it was causing problems Because if you don't have really well-trained employees, it costs money to train the employees, and if they leave, you lose your investment. So what do you want to do? You want to retain your employees. And Henry Ford, for all of his flaws and fallacies, did something amazing at the time. He instituted a $5 workday. $5 for a day of work. Any of you here willing to work for $5? What if I told you it was $150 today, in today's money? $150 a day. That's not bad. That's not bad. He encouraged immigrants to work for him by offering them free English classes, right? He instituted a 5-day, 40-hour work week in his plant, something that is the law now that wasn't the law when he did it. It wouldn't become the law for another 20 years. Yes, Ford had some questionable practices, like heavily invading in his employees' private lives. But when it came to his ideas of retention, he paid his workers more. He gave them time off. He offered them training because he knew that keeping good employees was good business. And this was a business model we saw throughout the first half of the 20th century. It was common to stay with one employer for an extended period of time. And as a country, 21st century, we don't do loyalty anymore. I'm going to give you an example to show how we don't do this. How many of you were born between 1957 and 1964? All right. We got, what, 5 of y'all? I want you to count in your heads, how many jobs have you had, starting from high school, your very, very first job, all the way to what you have now or your retirement? I want you all to count. All right. Here's what I want you to do. If you had more than 5 jobs, raise your hand, those 5. All right, more than 8. All right, more than 12. All right, we got a few, 1 or 2 who had more than 12. None of y'all. I was born a little bit after that. I had about 15 jobs, I think. We no longer live in a place where people are expected to stay at the same job for most of their lives. Because most of y'all were at least at 8, correct? Since we talked about, because those are your boomers, tail-end boomers. Tail-end boomers. There was a study, right, talking about that demographic. Most of them had had 12 jobs, people who lived in that demographic, and that was from an article from Forbes magazine. In that same article from Forbes, they polled millennials. How long does the average millennial stay at their job, according to Forbes? Who wants to hazard a guess? All right, 9 months. Cute. Not bad. 2 years. We got 2. We got 2. You're all close. 2 years, 9 months. 2 years, 9 months. Gen X, guess what your average is? 5.2 years. And my boomers, according to Forbes, 8 years, 3 months. 8 years, 3 months. That's a bit of a disparity, 8 years to 3 years. Why do millennials job hop? Why are they not loyal? There's some really interesting things about millennials that I absolutely love. Millennials do not put as much importance as in institutions as previous generations. By institutions, I mean things like religious institutions. Millennials rarely attend church, synagogue, or temple. The marriage institution. Millennials are waiting longer to get married on the whole. Political institutions. Millennials are less likely to belong to a political party than previous generations. Granted, remember, these are all broad strokes. If you find a millennial who got married early, goes to a church or a synagogue, and is a hardened political partisan, that's fine. They exist. Generally, though, they have less identities tied to institutions and groups. And millennials have no problem questioning the status quo and asking those institutions, why? Why do you do it this way? And the other interesting things about millennials is they're optimistic. And I look at this generation like, how in the world can you be optimistic? You had 2 financial crises in your lifetime. The world is burning around you. You grew up in the shadow of 9/11. How are you finding optimism? But they see the world could be a better place. And that's fascinating. Instead of looking at the world around them, shrugging their shoulders and saying, what are you going to do about it, which was my generation's hallmark, Gen X, they're more likely to advocate. They advocate for a better way. And at the same time, while they're focusing on this more holistic approach, how we do business has changed. Businesses have stopped focusing on employee satisfaction. Right? Annual bonuses, non-existent for the most part. Comprehensive quality health care, if you're lucky. Decent time off. Can we talk about corporate culture and what time off means now? How many of you have a smartphone? A smartphone, right? Do you know if you want time off that smartphone allows your employer to tag you whenever they want? You want to talk about loyalty 136 years ago and why it was people stayed at a job longer? It's because when they took a day off, their boss didn't have the capability to send them a text message and ping them whenever they wanted.
Because of unions.
We are not talking about unions in this one.
For Labor Day? No, Labor
I will say right now, though, you are 100% right. And what was it? France just recently enacted a law saying that employers cannot, during their time, an employee's time off, ping them with text messages and emails, that they have a right to be undisturbed. So, yes, labor unions, 100% all the way. You missed the Francis Perkins sermon 2 years ago. You want to talk about it later? We'll go. Because I love me some Francis Perkins and the labor movement and unions. Where was I? Millennials job hop. They job hop every 3 years because a lot of companies no longer give raises with annual reviews. You get an annual review, you do well, great. Can I get a cost of living increase? Well, actually, profits are down this year. But you just said we can't do that. And they've discovered whether you put in all of the extra hours, hustle culture, whether you bust your butt, or whether you quiet quit. Anyone know what quiet quitting is? Quiet quitting is when you do the bare minimum that your job requires. Whether you do either of those or somewhere in the middle, you get paid the same. Why bother hustle culture? You want to get a raise? How do you do it? Go find a new job. That's the only way. You go and find a new job. And employers have tried to stick to the idea of culture, the corporate culture being family-oriented. We're a family here. You should do this because you love the job. Right, pay me. Right, and again, this is something that happens a lot. I'm pointing to you, Laura, because teachers, oh my God, teachers get the worst of it. Why should we pay you more when you get to work with kids? And don't you love working with kids? You should pay us for the ability to work with kids. This idea that you should do work for love and not be rewarded for it is something that has crept into corporate culture, and it is something that is ridiculous. People at corporations expect us to sacrifice our family all the time. We're going to intrude on your family time. We're going to call you at all odd hours. We're going to bring you into the office at weird times, right? When your kid's got a recital and all this stuff. And millennials have started to ask, if work culture is interfering and coming into my family life and interrupting family life, why can't my family life interrupt my work? Why can't we do that too? There's a 2016 Gallup poll entitled How Millennials Want to Work and Live. And the first thing I want to point out is the year. 2016, a little bit ago. But what's the big difference between 2016 and now? COVID. COVID changed a lot of how we work. But this was, according to this Gallup report, the millennial mindset of how we work in 2016. Chris, can you show me the slide? Okay, it might be a little hard to read. The past is the work culture from before and the millennial mind shift. So we have, in past it was you focused on my paycheck. The millennials focus on my purpose. Focused on satisfaction before. Yeah, I'm content, this is good. Versus my development. How can I be more, do more? For who? Yourself. Having a boss versus having a coach. Going from a top-down model to an egalitarian model. Talk with me, work with me, right? It's not an annual review, it's an ongoing conversation. Don't just focus on what I did wrong, let's talk about growth. It's not a weakness, let's talk about strengths. Let's talk about assets. And we're not focusing on our jobs. What are we focusing on? Our lives. And that's the thing. That's the thing that I think they're beginning to understand, that they understand that I think generations before don't. They understand that labor is a skill, not an identity. It is part of who we are. They understand that our labor is a part of us. It is not how we solely define ourselves. And this is something that has been in the water of our culture for years. My generation and before, these are the waters we swim in. You meet a small child, oh my gosh, they've got all this wonderful energy, and you ask them, what do you want to be when you grow up? What do you want to be? Not what do you want to do? Hey, 4-year-old, how do you want to tie your identity for the next 50 years? Fireman, obviously. Then education system. You got to get good grades. Why do I have to get good grades? So you can get to a good college. Why do I have to go to a good college? So you can get a good job. Why do I need a good job? So you can make money. Why do I need to make money? So you can be happy. Can I fish on the beach all day instead? Can I find out what I like to do, find enough ways to make money to suffice without having to hustle the entire time? The subtext that we have learned is that happiness comes from how you make a living and how you earn your income. For generations, we have tied our worth and our value to what we are able to produce financially. We have been taught to focus on what makes us profitable, what makes us productive, and to put aside what brings meaning. I would love to shift Labor Day just a little bit. I would like this to be a day where we honor the work that people do to make this country a better place, to give us all the grandeur that we behold. I want to use this day to appreciate the talents that people have, to appreciate the ability of someone who can do a really good job cleaning up and not just call them the custodian, to appreciate the skill of being able to handle difficult personalities and not call them a customer service associate. I want us to be able to think of labor as art. Art is something you do that comes through you. It is something you create. It is not all of your personality. It is something that you produce. It does not define you. It is a piece. Each and every one of you here, and I know for a fact each and every one of you here, has amazing gifts and talents all over the place, myriads of things. You are not a doll maker. You are Carol with a kind and loving heart. You're not just a teacher, Laura. You're a person with great ideas who wants to facilitate them to everybody else. Oh, I don't know what so many of you do because you're retired. Juan, you're not just somebody who works with your hands. You're somebody who loves with your hands, and you want to do the best for people. You all have so many different abilities and talents. You're not just a lawyer, you're an advocate, and which is another word for lawyer, but you're somebody who wants to see good things happen. You're not just a musician, you're a conduit of beauty. And you are somebody who can bring these songs to life, but it's not all of who you are. You are somebody with a beautiful heart, too, and roots in nature that are strong. Love that. We all have so many things that make us who we are. Our work is just a small part of it. Celebrate your skills. Celebrate the skills of others. And realize that you are more. And that you are beautiful just that way. And yeah, thanks for the unions. May it be so. Let us sing, friends, our closing hymn. We want a better world. Let's make it happen. Rise and body your spirit for our closing hymn. We'll build a land, 121 in the gray hymn.
Where the oil of gladness dissolves all mourning.
As always, we extinguish our chalice and we never extinguish the fire in our hearts. You are more than what you do. What you are is good enough. So take time. Fish on the beach. Do what you love. Feed your soul. Go in peace.